recognise it needs to grow more.
I do want to get to the other issue, because the issue of accommodating people in asylum was brought up by yourself there. There was a case before the High Court this week, and your department, you've conceded that the accommodation, which is ultimately designed to take 1,000 men in Lissywolla near Athlone, would be classified as an unauthorised development and yet continue. I think there was some dispute over whether or not the right environmental assessment was being done. But proceeding with an unauthorised development, I mean, that particularly coming from the Green Party background that you're in, how does that sit with you?
So fundamentally, we've recognised that we have a crisis in terms of the provision of accommodation for international protection applicants, and we saw the very real consequences of that earlier this year when we had hundreds of people sleeping rough on the streets of Dublin. My department, as part of the all of government response, put out a new comprehensive accommodation strategy. We've also seen the High Court, in cases that IREC have taken against my department, set out that the fundamental rights of asylum seekers were being breached when we couldn't accommodate them. So my department has looked to bring forward an emergency response. And we're caught in this situation where part of the system...
Is it not possible to do, I suppose, an emergency response within the law?
The planning system doesn't allow for the speed that is necessary when you have hundreds of people on sleeping rough and you're looking to provide accommodation.
It's still the system though, isn't it?
It is the system, and we have looked to work within the system, and in the particular case that you've cited, the court has said certain elements of the actions we took weren't within the system. But we are being told by the High Court, and the state is being told by the High Court, on one side you have an emergency, you're breaching people's rights, and then on the other side, but the steps you're taking aren't acceptable right now.
And that
will be a challenge for the next government to see how we can quickly respond to the needs of people who are unaccommodated, while at the same time meet all.
Are there other unauthorised developments?
We look to work within existing planning rules, using ministerial orders at all times, because what we have identified, the use of state-owned land, whether it's in Athlone, whether it's in other sites, is the best way. And that is seen in the context that we don't have hundreds of people sleeping rough anymore because of the steps taken over the last number of months. We've been able to intervene. We've been able to provide male international accommodations, protection seekers with a basic standard of accommodation.
And do you think a change in the law is required then?
I do. I think there's a change in the law required, but I also think there is a change in the resourcing and the backup to do this sort of work. And I would bring you back to the accommodation agency that I spoke about earlier on. A dedicated state body focused on this, I think, will give far better results. And we have to recognise we are going to see these higher levels of international protection applications going forward, and we have to have the infrastructure as a state. We need the infrastructure in place to deal with it.
We're going to come back to